I want you to close your eyes and picture the ultimate American hero of the Wild West. He rides a white horse. He wears a big hat. He's a crack shot with a rifle. He travels with a Native American companion, and he fights outlaws in the dangerous Indian Territory where nobody else dares to go. You're probably thinking of the Lone Ranger, right? Hi-yo, Silver, and all that. Well, Hollywood got the story about 90% right, except for one massive detail. The real Lone Ranger didn't wear a mask, and he wasn't white. His name was Bass Reeves. And honestly, the fictional version is boring compared to the real guy. Bass Reeves was born a slave. He punched his master in the face, escaped into the wilderness, lived with the Native American tribes, and emerged to become the first Black Deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi River. While other lawmen were famous for being drunks or corrupt, Bass Reeves was a machine of justice. Here are the stats. He arrested over 3,000 felons. He killed 14 men in self-defense. But here is the craziest stat of all. In a 32-year career of gunfights, ambushes, and manhunts, Bass Reeves was never shot, not once. His hat was shot off, his belt was shot off, his buttons were shot off, but his skin never touched. He walked through bullets like he was a ghost. This is the story of the man who cleaned up the deadliest territory in America. This is the story of the invincible Marshal. Welcome to Valor and Heritage. Bass was born into slavery in 1838 in Arkansas. His owner was a man named George Reeves. George was a politician, and when the Civil War broke out, he took Bass with him to fight for the Confederacy. Imagine that, being forced to help fight a war to keep yourself in chains. But Bass wasn't the kind of guy who just accepted his fate. He was big, 6'2", and he was strong. One night during a card game, George Reeves got drunk and started beating Bass. Maybe he cheated, or maybe George was just mean. We don't know the exact trigger, but we know the result. Bass stood up and knocked George Reeves out cold. Now, in the 1860s, a slave hitting his master was a death sentence, literally. If he stayed, he would hang. So Bass ran. He didn't run north like most escaped slaves. He ran west. He ran into the Indian Territory, what is now Oklahoma. This was a wild place. It wasn't governed by the United States. It was governed by the 5 civilized tribes: the Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Chickasaw, and Choctaw. Bass lived with the Seminole and Creek nations for years. He didn't just hide, integrated. He learned their languages. He learned how to track animals. He learned how to shoot a pistol with either hand. He became a master of camouflage. This is crucial. This is where the superhero origin story happens. The wilderness forged him. He learned patience. He learned that the land talks to you if you listen. A broken twig, a disturbed bird, a footprint in the mud. These were the skills that would make him the greatest detective of his time. When the Civil War ended and the Emancipation Proclamation made him a free man, Bass left the territory. He bought a farm in Arkansas, married a woman named Nellie, and had 10 kids. He was ready to settle down and be a farmer. But destiny had a badge waiting for him. In 1875, the Indian Territory was chaos. It was the most dangerous place in the world. It was a haven for murderers, horse thieves, and bandits because the local police couldn't touch them if they weren't tribal members. It was lawless. The government sent a judge to Fort Smith, Arkansas to clean it up. His name was Isaac Parker. History knows him as the hanging judge. Parker was tough. He hanged 79 men during his career. But he needed men who could go into the territory and bring the bad guys out. He needed men who knew the land, knew the languages, and weren't afraid of dying. One of Parker's marshals heard about this big farmer named Bass Reeves who could speak Creek and shoot a fly off a mule's ear at 50 yards. They recruited him. Bass became the first Black Deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi River. Now, understand what this job meant. He wasn't patrolling a town. He was given a stack of warrants, pieces of paper with names on them, and told, go into that 75,000 square mile hellhole, find these killers, and bring them alive. Oh, and we don't pay you a salary. We pay you per arrest. If you get killed, we pay you nothing. Bass took the job. He would ride out with a wagon, a cook, and a Native American scout. He would be gone for months. When he came back, his wagon would be full of prisoners chained together. He was relentless. He wasn't just a shooter, he was a thinker. Bass Reeves was functionally illiterate. He couldn't read or write, but he memorized every single warrant. He would have someone read the names to him once, and he would remember the name, the crime, and the description forever. He never arrested the wrong man. We are about to see how Bass Reeves used his brain to capture the most dangerous killers without firing a shot. He was the original master of disguise. But before we put on the costume, I have a warrant for you. Apprehend that subscribe button. Bring it in, alive or dead. We are hunting down the lost stories of American history. Join the posse. Now let's go undercover. Bass Reeves was known for his trickster style. If he knew a gang was holed up in a cabin, he wouldn't just kick the door down. That's how you get shot. Instead, he would dress up. One time, he was hunting two brothers who were barricaded in a cabin. They were heavily armed. Bass shot holes in his own hat. He took off his badge. He rubbed dirt all over his face and dressed in rags. He walked up to the cabin looking like a pathetic, beaten-down tramp. He knocked on the door and told the outlaws that he was on the run from the law, too. He showed them the bullet holes in his hat and said the marshals were chasing him. The outlaws laughed and invited him in. They gave him food. They let him sleep in the cabin. In the middle of the night, while they were snoring, Bass woke up. He handcuffed them both without waking them. When they opened their eyes in the morning, the tramp was standing over them with a shiny badge and a Colt revolver, saying, "Good morning, boys. Time to go." He captured them without firing a single shot. That is genius. But when he had to shoot, he didn't miss. The most famous gunfight was with Jim Webb. Webb was a killer. He saw Bass coming and opened fire from 500 yards with a rifle. Bass rode straight at him. Webb's bullets were cutting the buttons off Bass's coat. Bass jumped off his horse, cool as ice, and returned fire. His bullet hit Webb's rifle, shattered the stock, and killed him. When Bass walked up to the body, he found that Webb's bullet had grazed his belt buckle. An inch closer, and Bass would have been dead. He just brushed the dust off and loaded the body onto the wagon. Another time, he was escorting 3 murderers. One of them pulled a hidden gun. Bass drew his revolver so fast that witnesses said it was a blur. He shot the man dead before the guy could even pull the trigger. He was fast, he was accurate, and he was terrifying to the bad guys because they knew he couldn't be bribed and he couldn't be scared. But the true measure of a man isn't how he treats his enemies, it's how he treats his family. In 1902, a warrant came across Bass's desk. It was for a man named Benny Reeves. Benny was Bass's own son. Benny had caught his wife cheating and, in a rage, killed her lover. It was a capital crime. The other marshals were uncomfortable. They said, "Bass, you don't have to take this one. We'll send someone else." They knew it would break his heart. Bass shook his head. He said, "I took an oath. The law is the law." He rode out. He found his son hiding in the hills. We don't know exactly what was said between them, but we know that Bass arrested his own son, handcuffed him, and brought him into Fort Smith to face justice. Benny was convicted and sent to Leavenworth Prison. Think about the integrity that takes, to love the law so much that you would arrest your own flesh and blood because it's the right thing to do. That is a level of honor we rarely see today. In 1907, Oklahoma became a state. The federal marshals were disbanded and the local police took over. But the new police force was segregated. They told Bass Reeves, the greatest lawman in history, that he couldn't be a marshal anymore because he was black. It was a shameful end to a glorious career. But Bass didn't retire. At 68 years old, he joined the Muskogee Police Department as a beat cop. He walked the streets with a cane. And you know what? Crime in his beat dropped to zero. Nobody was stupid enough to mess with the old man with the cane. He died in 1910 of Bright's disease. For a long time, history forgot him. The movies made the Lone Ranger white. The textbooks left him out. But the truth has a way of coming back. Bass Reeves wasn't just a character in a story. He was the real deal, a man who started in chains and ended up holding the keys to the jail. He arrested 3,000 men. He never took a bribe. He never backed down. That is the definition of valor. If you think Bass Reeves deserves a blockbuster movie, a real one, leave a comment. The real Lone Ranger. Next time on Valor Heritage, we're going to the skies above Japan. We're going to meet the craziest pilot of World War II, a man who stole a plane, shot down 5 enemies in one day, and received the Medal of Honor while smoking a cigar. Pabby Boyington is coming up. I'm Baylor. Ride straight.